Hey you guys, welcome back to another Coffee and Money Talk where we are just kind of answering some questions, talking about life, talking about money, talking about kids, all the fun stuff that you and I as millennials go through. I have my Grinch coffee mug. I love this thing. I actually used to hate drinking out of mugs like this because I feel like they're just such an awkward shape. But then I realized you have to drink from the back of his head. Pull that quote out of context and you're like, you have to drink out of the back of his head. Are you a vampire? No. And we're going to talk about some questions. So let's go ahead and hop into the questions in this video. Okay, number one, do you ever get worried about buying a home? I do, saving so much then hoping you buy the right one. Yes and no. I feel like I'm not so worried about buying a home more so than I am about, I guess, just like, maybe, I don't know. I haven't really thought about that because I know that this is a purchase that we are absolutely going to be making in the future. And I've spent a lot of time and effort building up that down payment that I know I will spend a ton of time and effort searching for the right house that fits our needs as a family. So no, I haven't really worried too much about it. Two, how much do you pay in rent? I know some parts of LA can be pricey. You're gonna like kill over when I tell you. We pay $4,200 a month in rent in LA County. So there's a difference between the city of LA and LA County. So we're not actually in LA proper. We're on the outskirts of downtown, actually, in a very nice neighborhood, might I add. This decision really wasn't like, okay, let's just pick the cheapest place and just grin and bear it and get through it. We said, if we're gonna do LA, we're gonna do it right and we wanna be comfortable. So we were okay with paying a higher amount in rent to gain access to location. My husband walks to work. The neighborhood, we are in a very secure, gated community that has all the amenities you could ever ask for and extremely family friendly. So these are things that we factored into the cost of our rent. Number three, were you renting a condo in downtown San Diego? Pros and cons. Yes, we were renting a condo in downtown San Diego. We lived in a high-rise building for 7 years. It's still kind of crazy to think about that. We almost spent close to a decade living like the urban city life, which is something that I had wished for myself in my 20s after I graduated college and I was thinking about paying off my student loan debt, and I had $35,000 in student loan debt. And one of the dreams that I had for my life was that I would live downtown in a really fun city. In San Diego, all of that came true. So pros and cons to this. Pros, walkability, 100% walkability. We could walk to Petco Park where the Padres played. We could walk to Balboa Park, Little Italy, tons of bars and restaurants. You could walk, I think we were about a 20-minute walk down from the actual San Diego Bay and walk down to the marina. That was so fun. That's one of the biggest pros. Also, living in a high-rise building, you get to know your neighbors, and we met our best friends who are now lifelong friends. We wouldn't have been able to do that if we were living in like a single family home. It would have been harder to do that. Another pro is just, location in general. I could get anywhere in less than 10 minutes. So living in an urban city, there's normally not big places like Costco or Target right there in the city, but I could get right on the freeway and access like 5 minutes, 10 minutes away to some of those bigger, like more suburban retailers like Target or Costco that I was really interested in. Now, the biggest cons of living in downtown San Diego is there are a ton of homeless people, and you have to be aware of that you are going to see people living on the streets. And unfortunately, you kind of get used to seeing people just passed out on the sidewalk. It's a pro and a con. Pro, a lot of people have dogs, so very dog-friendly city. Con is that the dogs use the sidewalks as their restrooms. So a lot of dog poop everywhere, and it smells really, really bad. When you live in a high-rise building, it's also really noisy. A lot of people wanted to remodel their units, especially during the pandemic. There's a ton of noise: ambulance, sirens, airplanes, fire trucks, construction noise, trash trucks, moving trucks, just constant noise. And once we had our daughter, I felt like, okay, this is too much noise, and we're quickly outgrowing the space, which is why we left. But if you don't have any kids and you're just kind of starting out, maybe you just got married or maybe you just graduated, I feel like doing something like downtown San Diego is definitely the way to go. Okay, 4, are you a minimalist? How do you handle kids' toys? I would call myself a minimalist enthusiast. So I am not a minimalist by any means. I definitely have stuff that I hang on to, or I am constantly in rotation of. The way that I handle kids' toys, actually the way I handle my minimalist enthusiast, is I watch the home edit and then I try to implement some of the things they talk about, editing things out that no longer bring you joy, or like the Marie Kondo stuff. I totally buy into that mentality. So I try to adopt some of those things that best fit my happiness level, but also realize like I'm not a true minimalist, and that's okay. The kids' toys. So I like to rotate Quinn's toys from the living room and her bedroom, and I got just a really cheap shelf organizer from Target with some wicker baskets from Amazon, and then I will just shuffle those toys out into the living room, and then that way she's seeing something new every couple of weeks. Number 5, how is Quinn doing after her hip issues at birth? Thank you so much for following up on this. I actually had 2 people reach out to me about her hip dysplasia, because our daughter Quinn was born with hip dysplasia, meaning that her top of the femur bone in her leg was completely like out of the hip socket at birth. I guess this is pretty common. 1 in 10 first female births experience some form of hip dysplasia. And what they told me is it happens because basically of how the baby is packaged in the womb and how they grew. So I don't know. We don't have a family history of hip dysplasia. It was all very new to me. Quinn was in a Pavlik hip harness. I'll put a picture up on the screen to show you what that apparatus looked like. They've actually been using hip harnesses to correct hip dysplasia since the 50s, and it's the least invasive treatment you can have for babies with hip dysplasia. And then if the Pavlik harness doesn't work, they end up doing what's called like a rhino cast or a rhino brace, where it's actually, you know, like a true cast on their bodies, and then surgery and whatnot to correct it. Thankfully, because the doctors caught it so early, literally like the day she was born, they're like, we noticed some clicking of the hips, let's go get this checked out. Because we treated it so early, she's made a full recovery. That said, we do have a follow-up x-ray next month. This would be her 1-year x-ray since completing treatment, just to check on her hips to make sure her hip angles are still healthy and correct. But let me tell you, the kid jumps, twirls, crawls, walks, runs. She does everything that I was so worried about as a new mom, especially in her newborn life, that I'm like, it all ended up working out. So yeah, we follow up in January to see how her hips are doing, and hopefully everything looks great. 6, how do I purchase your budget boot camp to give as a gift to my daughter? I love this. Okay, so what I want you guys to do, if anybody else wants to purchase Budget Bootcamp, which is my 3-month private one-on-one budget coaching program where you and I talk about your financial struggles, your financial goals, and then basically make a roadmap to help you achieve those financial goals. You can sign up using the link in the description box below. If you want to gift it to somebody, I want you to email me, and I will include that below somewhere for you to fill out. And then I'll give you a coupon code for 100% off to give to the gift recipient. And then they can go ahead and redeem the coupon code. It's free, and then they can start scheduling their sessions with me. I think that's I love that somebody wanted to gift that. 7, how many kids do you want to have? Well, if you asked me like 2 days ago, I would have said 1's enough. I feel like we're at that age where you're just like, Quinn is going through so much development. She's just shy of 2 years old. So she's really exploding in her vocabulary. And also there are words that she can't quite get yet. And when she can't get the words out, it comes out as frustration or what a lot of parents call tantrums. And so trying to be there for her during that. And we recently went through a major sleep regression. So I was like, I don't understand how people have more than one. And then there's the opposite of that, where you have a really great day with your kid. They do something funny, they do something cute, all of the above. Everything's just fantastic. You love watching just their little minds develop or get something new, making memories. We decorated Christmas cookies the other night and I was like, I could have another one. So yeah, I've always envisioned us having one more. So I think 2 would be the max here, and then I'm like done. But 2 also, it just feels so final, knowing like the next time that I could be pregnant could be my very last. And so there's something like final about that that's a little bittersweet. 8, what's it like being a parent? I started answering this question multiple times and it was so difficult for me to respond to because I have so many responses. And I think for me, being a parent is I have gotten the most amount of love and also the most amount of struggle through this path of being a parent and being a mom. You get to see this little person who just is overjoyed to be with you and loves you so much and wants to be around you all the time. And also you realize the impact and influence, the words you say, the words you don't say to this little person shapes who they are. It influences them. And so that type of responsibility can be extremely overwhelming. And I take my role as parent and as a mom very seriously. Every single choice that I make, most every single choice, major decisions I make has her in mind. So a big decision that we had to make recently was whether or not we would put Quinn into daycare. And she got called up to, there was a spot open for a local daycare. And I really, really struggled with that decision to say like, is she ready? You know, she's almost 2 years old. Is she ready? And of course she's ready. And also her being my first and just wanting to keep her protected and also realizing like she's not a caged bird. What I want is for her to be independent and to learn things and to, you know, life is all about, there's always going to be love and struggle in your life. And for her, like that's true for me and that'll be true for her. Like there's always going to be struggle and there's always going to be a source of love for her in her life. And so I think as a parent, you just kind of go through those motions and you do your best. I feel like I'm thinking of my own parents now, like how they parented me. You do your best, you show them unconditional love as much as possible and make those choices for them. Being a parent is a trip. It's a struggle. I was just crying to my sister yesterday too, and I was like, this is so hard. This is so hard. I was like, I don't know how I see all these parents, all my friends on Facebook or Instagram who are like, they're such a blessing. It's the best thing that has ever happened in my life. I'm like, B, are you crazy? Like, what? Like, sometimes I really, truly do miss my old life. And also, I truly, truly, like, am obsessed with Quinn. So it's this back and forth tug of, like, feeling pulled of, like, wanting to feel old me and then new me and then those lives colliding in some fashion. So it's wild. I'm still in transition. I truly am. I'm still in transition from my old life to this new life of like having this role as mother. It's crazy. Ugh. I gotta stop. I gotta move on or else I will cry again. 9, how did you step out and start helping people with money? What challenges did you face? Okay, so this was a gradual thing. After I paid off $35,000 in student loan debt, I ended up talking a lot about that journey with my friends and family. And then slowly I got a few friends and a few family members coming to me and asking for help. And I realized like, oh, why are they coming to me? Like there's already a level of trust because I have a personal relationship with them. And then as Kyle and I were talking about me starting my own business, and I first started out doing marketing consulting and contract work for like tech small tech and cybersecurity companies. Long story, but that's how I got my start into self-employment. But I wasn't fulfilled in that. And I kept going back to this personal finance as a passion, realizing, okay, I could help people in this way, but how do I build up trust with complete strangers? Introduce YouTube, and I started talking about money and my personal journey with paying off debt on YouTube, and that's how I was able to build up the trust. So the challenges that I faced in the beginning is that nobody knew me and I didn't have that credibility and authority built up. That does take time. So while I was working on building up Debt-Free Millennials and doing the YouTube channel, I was also paying the bills with my marketing consulting job. And also Kyle, is a full-time employee. So we really leaned on his paychecks and the little bit of income that I was getting from my consulting stuff to build up Debt-Free Millennials, and ended up going full-time with that 5 years ago. 10, what do you think is a good safe investment like S&P 500? Listen, there's no good or safe investment. Every investment that you make has the potential and the risk to lose money. Just depends on your risk tolerance. Obviously, buying straight stocks is going to be your highest level of risk versus buying more conservative funds like bonds. You're going to have a lower level of risk or lower chance of losing that money. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a certified financial planner. So please take this as education only. I like to invest in index funds, specifically with Vanguard. They are low cost, low fee index funds, which means you are investing in the entire index on that particular index. So the S&P 500 is a particular index. You're buying every single stock in that index, which means you are diversifying using one fund and you're watching that fund build over time historically. So, definitely check out my videos on Vanguard and index funds in particular and educate yourself, research a little bit more about that. That's personally what I like to use and what all of my retirement accounts are invested in. 11, should I stop contributing to my 403b to focus on paying off debt? Not necessarily. So 403b is very much basically a 401k for government workers or people in the public sector. I'll tell you what I did. I never stopped contributing to my 401k, but I didn't try to contribute extra to the 401k while I was paying off debt. So I think I had about 2%. I had started off with 2% in my 401k, and then I ended up working for a public university, so I also had a 403b. They had a mandatory retirement contribution of 5.5% from our paycheck, so I just did the mandatory 5.5% and I did not contribute a penny more. Instead, I focused on utilizing my budget and finding ways to increase my income to pay off debt. So I don't think you should, but I also don't know your individual situation. There could be more to this, but that's my hunch. 12, what is the next goal after you purchase your house besides retirement and investing? I love this because I'm so focused on buying our first home and really getting that, in a good spot, maybe even putting up some like mid-level savings funds for house renovations or home renovations. Besides retirement and investing, I think what I really like to do would be to get us to a place of financial independence where Kyle feels like he no longer has to work and he can quit his job. I think that would be amazing. 13, where are you saving, investing your home down payment savings? Definitely check out this video up here. This one's a little bit old, but it's still true because we actually invest part of our down payment savings in bond index funds through a brokerage account with Vanguard. And then we also put a lot of cash into a high yield savings account with Ally. Right now, we are primarily doing like 90% of savings into Ally because we are really close to purchasing our first home like within the next year. 14, here we go. Were you both on the same page financially when you got married? Sort of. We both believed that having debt was like a really bad idea, but Kyle wasn't budgeting at the time and I wasn't using credit cards at the time. So I was definitely anti-credit card because I totally bought into the whole Dave Ramsey thing. Then I started talking to Kyle and he was like, no, actually, if you use credit cards responsibly, this could be a really good advantage to you. And here's why. And so we talked about that. And then we also talked about how budgeting really helped me keep track of everything. And so he bought into that. And then we were able to kind of blend together our financial perspectives. But we both had agreed like debt is not something we want to have in our lives. 15, this last question. What is your favorite beer during the holidays? We love to drink Breckenridge's Christmas Ale. You can find it at your local liquor store. We have a BevMo out here that supplies all these types of breweries and beers, and it's awesome. It's a great like spiced beer that kind of gives you that notes of like Christmas, not cinnamon really, but just spiced in general. It's just so good. It's like mellow, it's not too heavy, it's not a stout or a porter, it's just like a nice Christmas ale. That's our coffee and money talk, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment below if you want to ask me something new that I didn't cover in today's video. Maybe we'll catch it in the next coffee and money talk. Like this one, give it a big thumbs up, and I'll catch you in the next one.